Some insight today with Barnabas Aid, who are quick to mobilise disaster relief and aid into the earthquake zone. Ashley Saunders is our guest. He's head of partnerships for Barnabas Aid in Australia. Our talkback line is open on 1800 316 316. Ashley, before we go any further, let's take a call. Sue is in Kingston in Tasmania. Sue, a special welcome along to 2020.
Thank you, Neil, and hello, Ashley. It's a terrible, terrible time people are experiencing in Syria and Turkey. But I've been really pondering whether or not this is actually of God. I'm not saying it is, but in the Old Testament it says time and time again that God is tolerant and then his wrath comes upon the people. And whether or not, because Syria and Turkey were very relevant to Paul of Tarsus, the capital of Turkey. And Paul is one of the most prolific writers, as you know, in the New Testament, proclaiming Jesus Christ. So whether or not this is going to be something that God will use to draw the people to Christianity, but more particularly to Jesus. And I'd just like to know your thoughts on that, because the suffering is hideous for all people involved.
Ashley, this is one of those issues that comes up, doesn't it? Whenever there is a national disaster, lives are lost, people are displaced, people wonder about God in the circumstance. What's your thought and feeling for Sue here?
Thank you, Sue, for calling in and for your reflections. Of course, Turkey, or the modern-day Turkey, is a significant place in Scripture. The city of Antioch, now called Antakya, which is very badly affected, was the place where Christians were first called Christians. We read about that in the book of Acts. And, of course, all of the 7 churches of Asia that we read about in Revelation are all in modern-day Turkey. And so the whole of that area is very significant. It was a significant part of the message of Jesus Christ going as those who fled religious persecution from Jerusalem and wider Israel, as they went north around the top of the Mediterranean, Syria and Turkey into Greece were significant for the early church. And there's been Christians there for 2,000 years. And they're in a very bad position now. I've already talked about what happened 100 years ago in the Ottoman Empire with the genocide, and so many survivors of that genocide went to and lived in Aleppo in northern Syria. That's why there's a significant Christian population in that part of Syria. And so, yes, it is a significant part of the world in a biblical context. And I guess what I would say in response to your specific questions are, firstly, that God can use everything. And whatever happens, the question is, how do I respond to that in a God-honouring way? How do I show something of the grace of God? How do I show the love of God? And that will look different to us in Australia as it will to the church in Syria and Turkey. And so I'm encouraging people to pray, and I'm encouraging people to give as they have the capacity to alleviate the suffering. And what the Christians are looking to do in Syria and Turkey, I saw something that a prayer network said, pray that the church in that area would be a great presence. Well, we do want them to be a great presence. We do want them to be salt and light. And in order to do that, we want them to be strengthened and encouraged. And so part of the way that Barnabas Aid operates is that we partner with Christian churches and denominations and organisations on the ground. And by encouraging them, Barnabas, of course, means a son of encouragement. That's what we want to do. By encouraging and equipping and funding those churches and denominations and Christian organisations, pray God, we're collectively helping them to be the salt and light in and to their local communities. And so, yes, we should always ask, in light of this, Lord, what should I do now? What are you calling me to do? And I do pray that as we are able to strengthen, as we're able to equip and enable the church, that they would be salt and light and that many would turn to know the living God.
Sue, wonderful to call in, and I think there too at the heart of your question was an issue around the judgment of God. And my response oftentimes when there is a natural disaster, whether it's a natural disaster here in Australia or whether it's a natural disaster that something like this unfolding in an international context, oftentimes is to say you cannot say this is the judgment of God on a people, but on the other hand, you cannot say that it is not. So it's one of those things we will not know, but I think there, as Ashley's just indicated so eloquently and so beautifully, when we hear of these disasters that unfold, we instantly say, not whose fault is that, but what is now my responsibility, because now opportunity has been made for me to respond in a compassionate and sympathetic way. But Sue, thank you so much for your call. Our talkback line is open, 1800 316 316, 1800 316 316 if you'd like to join into our conversation.